Hi there, this is Joy. We're having an impromptu kind of a video day today since I have time off. And one of the things I wanted to give a shot was some polymer clay, which I haven't done in a little while. And I had some colors all chosen for something else. Actually, I was going to put some nice waves and things on a glass candle holder. And so I had a bunch of watercolors handy. But since today I have a craving to do some polymer clay stuff, I'm going to use what I've got on hand. And that means I have a whole bunch of different blues and things, and some white, and some translucent. And I was trying to figure out, oh, and a little bit of gold. I was trying to figure out what I could do with these colors. And since they are all ocean-based kind of colors, I thought, okay, well, I'm going to try something ocean-based. Makes sense, right? So my thought here is I'm going to try and do a little goldfish, a little koi. And I haven't tried it before. I haven't done any sculpting in quite a while, so this could be fun. It may not turn out, who knows? But as I've said before in videos, it's the journey that's the important part. It's the getting out and trying and being creative. And so that's what we're going to do. And so far, for prep, I have kind of softened up a few colors. This one, I think, is Peacock. No, Teal Pearl. It's got a little bit of sparkle to it. I love this color. I also have an Ultramarine, I believe, and I'm using a Sculpey 3. Just double check that I'm telling you the right color. Azul. Just says blue. To me, this is Ultramarine. So that's what I've got there. This one is called Turquoise. Here we go. I have some regular white. I have a little tiny ball of black, which I probably will only use for the eyeballs. And I have some jewelry gold, I think it's called. It's not a very bright gold. I think it'll be nice. And then I made this color, and I made it by putting some of this. I wanted something that was kind of a greenish blue. This is called String Bean. I'm not really fond of greens much, but I do think if you're going to have ocean stuff, there should be some green in some of your blue. And so I took some of the String Bean, I took some of the Teal Pearl, kind of in equal amounts, and then I added about half again as much of this turquoise. And I blended them all up and I got this interesting color. It's got a little bit of a shine to it from the Teal Pearl, which is nice. And I also have this color, which is entitled Tranquility. It's kind of a flat grayish blue-green. It's not all that pretty by itself, but I'm thinking it will make a nice base because I want to make a bunch of little scales. I want to vary these colors to make the scales and maybe throw in the odd bit of little gold there. And so I wanted kind of a plainer color for the body. And so I'm going to use this guy for the body. I haven't figured out what I'm doing with the white or if I'm using the white. If anything, it might be with the eyeballs again. And I'm thinking that I'd like to put the fancy, I want to say gills, but that's not, fins, top and bottom on my little fishy. And I'm thinking I might use some translucent, put little bits of these colors in with the translucent and see how that works out. Maybe I can make some form of fan-shaped fins. The main challenge that I see is that I'd like to be able to make it all in one piece and then bake it. And I'm not sure how I'm going to be able to stand this thing up to get it in the oven. Because if it's going to have fins top, bottom, and sides, it could be difficult. I may be trying to set it inside a bowl or something like that just to kind of prop up what I need or get the fins the right shape. And I have shallow bowls. It looks like this. And I'm thinking I may be able to set the little round body in. I may have to add one fin after the bottom fin. We'll see. But I may be able to set the body in here and then get the fins kind of to lay against the edge so that they don't flatten right out or spread or whatever. It's going to be a challenge. That's the part I'm not really sure how I'm going to manage. So we shall see. In the meantime, I've been talking away here and I've been trying to soften up some of these pieces because I started my video probably before I should have. I should have done some prep work first, or more prep work first. For tools, I have my straight blade. I have my roller that I've gotten, and this is a fondant roller. It's kind of cool because it's got two different thicknesses you can do, as you can see that. There are little rubber bands that go over the edge. If you take off the purple band, it gives you a nice, really thin thickness for whatever you're doing. If you leave the purple band on, then whatever you're rolling ends up being this thin, and it's fairly uniform, which is nice. I didn't want to get out my pasta maker today because I'm doing this, as I said, spur of the moment, and I have watercolor painting stuff all over my work surface off in the distance here. And I didn't want to have too much stuff brought from downstairs. So I guess I'm just being lazy. Also for tools, I have a bowl full of goodies. And I have some various stylus and ball tools and things like that, smoothers. I've bought a few different kinds. I bought these actually at Michael's. They're supposed to be the higher quality ones. And I found these, I think it was at the dollar store or something like that. They had a set of these things for kids that are playing with Play-Doh and stuff. And they have all sorts of different fun shapes, as you can see, on both ends. And this one might come in handy today, I'm thinking. This one or this one. To help me with the fins. To help me put some sort of pattern in the fins. So we shall see. As I said, I've got a nice selection of goodies here for various shapes. And this one's kind of cool too. It's got a, which one is it? I lost it. I wanted to show you. There. No, this one. There we go. If you can see that, it's got a little half moon. Now the only thing is it's not very smooth because it is fairly cheap plastic. I tried smoothing it out once and that didn't help. But it does have a nice little half moon groove that might come in handy, I think, around the eyeballs and stuff. And then again, I've got these. It's pretty much repetitive in some cases, but it's a nice selection of things. And I do have my X-Acto blade if I need it, as well as my stylus. So I have all sorts of goodies to play with. I just don't quite know what I'm doing with them yet. So we shall see. I think my first task here is going to be to make the body. And like I said, I want to use this kind of a bland, plain looking grayish blue to make the body because I'm going to cover most of it up. And I don't want to use up one of my favorite colors. I haven't decided how big I want this little guy to be. So I don't know if I'm going to need a ball this big. That's probably a nice little size. I don't know what I'm going to do with him afterwards either. I haven't decided that yet. But I know I want him to be not round. I want him to be kind of thinner. And I think that's probably big enough. I want him to have kind of a point at either end, but obviously flatter in the front. At some point I'm going to have to make him some little lips. So I just want to bring the front to a soft kind of a point. And bring the back to a stronger point. And I'm going to put a fin on the back, so I want him to narrow down towards where his fin's going to be. So I think that's kind of my basic shape. I just want to smooth it out and soften it a little. I could probably actually look at something to give me the right shape for a goldfish or koi, but me being me, I haven't done that. I know that they tend to have a bit of a bulbous area here, and they have a bit of a indent towards their tail. So that's kind of what I'm doing. And I'm not too worried if it's perfectly smooth, because like I said, I'm going to cover it with tiny little scales. And this is what's probably going to take me the most time. I'm thinking maybe I should stick something up. This is good. I should stick something up here to rest him on while I work. I wonder if I could bake him that way and then add the other thing after. I wonder. Perhaps the toothpick. Alright, although if I stick him in a piece of clay, I'm going to end up baking a piece of clay I don't really want to bake. I do have some scrap. So we shall see. Maybe I will use some scrap just to hold them up in the meantime. This is just bits and pieces that were left over from a cane, and I don't want to leave scraps all over my table and end up rolling it into my blue stuff. But it's a fairly good solid chunk. So perhaps I can put a little dent in there and put him in there like so. And maybe that will help me have some place to put him while I'm working. We shall see. Maybe it'll work, maybe it won't. So I'm thinking my first step here is going to, I don't need that, that's extra. I'm going to roll these out to the same thickness, and that's what these things are handy for, because it's just going to keep rolling it until it hits that thickness. The gold, if you've ever had gold, and it's got some little color variations in it, because it's got the glimmer, and sometimes you have to spend a little extra time kind of working it through to get, and this is how mica shift works too, by the way. If you get the sparkles somehow or other so they're all lined up nicely, then when you press your pattern in, it disrupts the sparkly bits. And that's kind of how your mica shift works. In my case, I just want to make sure that it's not streaky. I don't know if you could tell when I first started, it was a little bit streaky. And I don't want that. I want it to be a nice, even, goldy color. So there's that. Now I do have, I haven't listed on my pile of tools, but I have this little cutter that was out for something else, and it's kind of the right shape for little scales. It's probably a little bit too big even, but we shall see. I'm thinking if I use the tip of it, I can make little scales with it, which actually is making me think perhaps this fishy's too small. Okay, all right, we're winging it. I told you we were winging it. I'm going to make this guy bigger because I want to be able to use that cutter properly. So there goes our fishy shape, and we're going to try it again. So try and get them kind of roundish. But like I said, I don't really want them totally round. So we've got a ball. Like I said, we want him to be elongated with a kind of a soft point in the front. That didn't work out well at all. Trying to get the, some people are really good at this. They can just kind of taper like so, but I am not good at it. Anyway, that's a bit better. Okay, so he's a bit better there. Except that he has to get thinner top and bottom. So this is going to be his mouth. I'll have to put some little lips or something on him at some point. Perhaps I'll put little gold lips on him and make him fancy. And like I say, he's going to thin top and bottom. So we're just kind of pinching towards the top and the bottom to get the shape that I want. Problem is I get the shape this way and then I push it flat again, defeating my own purpose. And then we're going to make his little belly bit here where he's thinner. that tapers to his tail. I think he needs to be fatter. Just going to push him this way to get him fatter. Okay, so I like that shape, except of course that now I've fattened him up again, so try and thin him top and bottom a little bit. Less on the bottom because I think they're fatter on the bottom. I think they taper to the top and they're fatter on the bottom. So okay, so here's my basic fishy shape. Like I say, fatter on the bottom with a little indent under here and tapering to where his tail will be and to where his little mouth is going to be. Alright, so let's try putting him like so. Now he's heavier, so this may not work as well. But we shall see if we can get him to just stay upright while I'm doing the other stuff. Maybe. Alright, I'm just going to wash my hands because that will be staining my hands. I apologize for the fact that I probably won't be able to speed this video up any because, of course, I'm babbling through it again. I did, however, make one earlier today that I should be able to speed up. So if that makes anyone feel better, I don't know if it will. You may actually not have to listen to me babble through that one, which is good because I didn't do any talking at all. So if the speeding thing up doesn't work, it might be a little boring. Alright, so that color. I'm trying to go from lightest to darkest just so I'm not staining the colors with the other colors. I'm sure we've all done that at some point. And then usually by the time I get to the end I'll then say, oh, I want to do the translucent. And I'll stain that by accident. I'm thinking what I want to do with the translucent is I want to try and, if you hear my dog moaning and stuff in the background, I apologize. He's old. He moans a lot. I want to try and put some thin slices or stripes or worms or whatever you want to call it of these colors into the translucent so that they're kind of all running lengthwise, but randomly. And then what I want to do hopefully is flatten it out with the stripes and then thin it and make my fins out of it so that the fins are partially translucent with little stripes of color. I don't know how that's going to look, but I like the idea of it, so that's probably what I'm going to do. And I'll do it with probably scraps when I'm done doing my what do you call them? Scales. I'm losing my mind. So basically, where's my little ball guy? Does he fit? I find trying to get these out of here sometimes is fun, so I tend to do this with the ball-ended stylus. So I'm giving myself little half shapes because I'm going to layer them, and I don't want to waste clay. So what you're going to end up seeing is the rounded end. You're not going to really see the flat end. It's going to be under the next layer. So that's just all I'm going to do. I'm going to cut a bunch of these in each color, and then I'm going to give it a shot. Although it just occurred to me that it might be smarter on my part, excuse me, to put the tail on first and then layer over the tail with my scales, or at least layer where the tail joins. And I think that when I join my tail up, I'm going to split here and thin the tail right down and fit it between these two parts, because that's kind of how it looks when it's on the fish. And I also think it'll hold better if I do it that way. So that is my thought. I guess since I'm layering it with the round parts. Forward? Backwards? Which way do the scales go? I guess they go backwards. So I'm starting up here, and working towards the tail. So I guess I can still manage to put the tail in before I finish off the last bits of the scales. We'll see. We'll see. Like I said, nobody ever said you have to plan out ahead, right? I mean, just organized people do that, not all of us. Definitely not organized. So I'm just going to wing it and see how it works. And with any luck, if it turns out to be a total utter disaster, I can always just take it apart. It won't be easy to get all these colors apart again, which means I may end up with some lovely sea-colored blue marble at some point. And I'm looking at these, and I'm looking at how thick these scales are, and I'm thinking to myself, before I go any farther, I don't want this to be this thick, because this fish isn't that thick. And I don't want him to be 300 pounds of fish by the time I get done. So having done all that, I'm going to make my things thinner. And see, this is why I say fly by the seat of my pants, because sometimes you're working away and you have a plan in your head, and somewhere along the way you realize your plan isn't good. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm taking off my little ring here and I'm putting a thin ring back on. I could do it without the rings and just have a straight rolling pin, but then I always find I tend to push harder on one side, or I push as I'm going away from myself, and one side ends up thicker than the other. So this should be that thick now. So I'm going to take the ones I've already done and I'm going to thin them out. Like so. Yes, see that's better. And my fish just fell over. I don't know if this is going to be, I don't think it will. Alright, plan B, getting a big block. Put it in a big block. There. That should be heavy enough to hold him. He's a bit of a fat fish already. Alright, so this I think will work better than what I was doing. Sadly, I finally got this this rig set up so that my phone is hanging above the table, so that you can look directly down at what I'm doing, which seems to work great. The only issue with it is the light, the pendulum light that it's hanging from, is of course in the middle of the island, because that's how they do these things. And that means that I'm leaning way the heck over to do this. My work surface is normally in front of me, or at least closer to the front of me than what it is right now, and it's kind of awkward. So I'm trying to make sure I've kind of put my red mat where the camera picks up. And I'm trying to make sure I don't gradually kind of work towards myself farther and farther, and then you end up only seeing half of what I'm doing. So if somehow along the way I forget and I end up working off camera, hopefully I notice it right away, but if I do, I apologize. Okay, I'm not going to do translucent yet. That's for eyeballs, that's for eyeballs. So I guess I can start once again trying these. I wonder if I could stack them, if they'd stick together, or if they'd come apart. I'm probably better off to do it separate. Sometimes I wish I was ambidextrous. However, I'm not. I think these thinner scales are definitely going to work better. And I really have no idea how many scales I'm going to need to accomplish this, so I'm just kind of going to go around the outside of each ball and assume that'll be enough. And we're not going to follow any pattern, because, I mean, fish don't necessarily have a pattern. We're just going to kind of randomly pick colors and layer on top of each other. And if we end up with a couple of the same colors layered on top of each other, we're going to try not to get bothered by that. I'm not OCD, I'm not, and yet certain things just make me crazy. And I always try to be symmetrical. which doesn't always make for a natural looking item. So I'm trying to improve myself by letting it go. If it's not symmetrical, let it go. That was a little crooked. Perhaps I should move my clay instead of trying to angle my wrist. That would probably be smarter on my part. It's funny, I'm already losing patience with these little things. I don't know how people do work. I've seen some beautiful work, and it looks like they've just taken so much time and effort to make all these individual little pieces, and the end product is really, really intricate. And I think to myself, oh my goodness, I wish I had that kind of patience. I'm well aware that I do not. This is actually quite a patient undertaking for me. I don't know where that piece went. Even though I'm already impatient with it. How ironic. I'd love to be able to just go pop, pop, pop and get these all done. But they stick. I don't have as much gold going on here as I do the other colors, but that's probably just as well. I imagine that, what was it? There was a books that I used to read for my daughter. She loved them. It was Rainbow Fish or something it was called. And he was special because he had all these different colored scales. And he had a lot less gold scales. Maybe that's where I got the idea for this. Although he had purple in him too. And I don't have any purple. I have red and blue. I suppose I could make purple, but I'm really addicted to sea colors right now. Ocean colors. Anyways, Rainbow Fish had all these lovely scales, all different colors, and the occasional gold one. I suppose if they have too many gold, it's not as special anymore. And I'm running out of space for all my little... I'm going to try this because I'm really impatient. And we're going to hope that these all come out separately when I'm done and they don't just mash together. They may mash together. There, see, now I've done it. Nope, okay, bad plan. Note to self, don't do that. Patience is a virtue. Patience is a virtue. See, I tried to make a faster way to do it, and it just did not work out. So now, I'm going to have to come along and roll this part back out. Silly me. Considering I don't have a lot of space for rolling because I have all these scales everywhere. Is that off? Hopefully that's not off camera. I also have to remember to make sure I keep my my ends of my rolling pin on my mat, because otherwise the one side is a different thickness than the other. Sometimes I do these things and I don't notice that I'm doing them, and then I wonder, why is this tapering to one side? Alright. More patience, more patience, more patience. I do like this color. It does have a nice sparkle to it. I've used it in many things. And my plan, as I said, I used up my glass candle holder today, doing something completely different. But if you've watched the video where I made my daughter's Batman candle holder, I realized that I could draw the picture on paper. That one's not very good. Draw a picture on paper, cut out the pieces, lay it on flat pieces of polymer clay, and trace out what I wanted, and then put it back onto the glass and fit it together like a puzzle. And that's why I have all these blues, because I had decided at one point I was going to make waves, a bunch of different variegated, different colors of blue and maybe a little white here and there, and blue-green, variegated waves, draw the picture out, and then trace it onto the various colors of blue, and lay it on a glass candle holder. And I thought if I did that with each one mixed with translucent, or even just translucent mixed in occasionally, every so often there'd be a stripe that was translucent, or a color that had translucent in it. I thought when the candle was in it, that would look really pretty. So at some point, I will probably still try that. But if you're wondering why all I have is a whole bunch of blue colors, that's why. And then today, I had an urge to do something I saw on Pinterest, and I ended up using my candle holder to do it. So you'll see that video going up sometime today too, although it's taking forever to load, which is why I've moved on to something else. It's a good thing I have more than one camera I can use. Well, not camera. I use phones. I use iPhones. And I have a backup iPhone. So we are currently filming on the backup iPhone. Well, the other iPhone is uploading pictures to my camera, or to my computer. So, multitasking. That's my thing. Alright. I made it. I have scales. Now, here, little fishy. I want to start somewhere around here because I'm going to have his eyeballs, and I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some grooves in where his eyeballs are going to be, just so I know for reference. And I'm going to put his eyeballs in with white, and then I'm going to put a black dot in the center of his eyeballs, and then I think I might even put a little thin noodle or worm around the outside edge and blend it in so his eyeball looks like it's set into his head. I'm not usually that picky about these things, but I decided I want him to have nice big eyeballs because I think that's really cute. Which actually, that's not big enough there, that's better. This ball head stylus thingy is not as big as I wanted his eyeball to be, so we will wing it. I think he will look cute if his eyeballs are set back in his head like that. And then of course in the front I'm going to have to do some sort of mouth. He might look kind of cute. Anyways, I'm getting off topic. So, now that I know where... Oh, this goes this way. I guess I should try and pick ones that have a nice straight front edge. Which that guy did. I don't know why I put him back. Okay. Bear with me for a sec, I'm thinking. So I want this part to layer on top of the next one. So I do have to start at the tail. After all that, I do have to start at the tail. Alright. I wonder if I can manage to add all these scales without mangling a tail if I do the tail now. I kind of have to, I think, because I want to cover the outside edge of the tail up. So, here we are, changing our strategy again. Poor little fishy, I laid you down. Alright, translucent. So, what I'm going to do here, and I totally forgot to wash my hands, so this might not have been a good plan. I want to take a little bit of each of these colors, probably a little bit more than that. Maybe some gold, ouch, I stabbed myself. And a little bit of the green, the other two blues. Did I do this guy? Yes, I did. Okay. So I want to make little noodles, little thin noodles of each color. Sticking to my fingers. And I don't want it to get all twisted, but I do want it to blend a certain amount. So I'm just trying to think how I'm going to do this. This could be interesting. Maybe I'll do half at a time just in case it doesn't work out. So I'm thinking that I'm going to put stripes like so. Like I said, I'm going to do half at a time just in case the first one doesn't work out. I may have to rethink. So we're going with an experiment here. Half, half, half. And we're just going to do this, this, gold. Which one am I missing? I think I should put the gold in between. Too many blues in a row. But not that I can actually move it now. Alright, put the gold on this side then. Be that way. More than one way to put gold on. And this guy is going to go here then, so I have my gold between two of the blues. Alright, move these. And I'm going to try this. Should I put them farther apart? Too late now. Ah, wait! Shoot. Didn't get that out of the way. Alright, so now I think I want to cut it and I want to layer it. I'm lining up my flat side so the pattern's going to be different on either side. I think because it's translucent this is going to work because it should show through. So I'm just going to keep doing the same thing, I think. But I'm making sure I put the thicker translucent side against the colored side. Alright, so I don't know if you can see that or not. There's a little bit of colored stripes running through my translucent. And I hope if the light shines through it, it'll show up kind of cool. So, now what? Where did I put my blade? Alright, so I want to put this like so. I want to spread that out enough to put my tail in it. And I like that I've got a nice dark piece. If you can see that stripe right there. I kind of like that because it looks like, although it's not showing up very well because it's too short. Build it on this side. So I'm going to trim this, and I think it's about the same width as that blue stripe, so I'm going to do this, like so. And like so. Maybe I can use those scraps for the other bit of my tail. And I'm going to squish it with my fingers to make it really, really thin, because I want it to, I want the edge to be kind of soft and undulating, I guess is the word I'm looking for. And hopefully these colors will show through nicely when it spreads out. So I'm going to tuck that in there as far as I can get it. And I'm going to seal it back up. And I'm just going to give it a little push up against the fin, which I'm going to have to smooth out because obviously that looks a little rough, but Basically, I want him to taper onto the fin, like so. Here's one side. All right. So his fin is sufficiently floppy. So at this point, I think I want to find this guy. And I want to see whether or not I can make some nice flowing lines on his fin. You can see that. I just laid him on top of something. Oh, a scale. And hopefully when I do this side, the other side doesn't smooth out. Try not to push all that hard, but I kind of need to. All right. So here we have his little floppy tail. I kind of like it so far, but I think it's a little bit too uniform. So I'm going to take some pieces out and it just randomly cutting. The only thing I want to try and do is make sure that when I cut a piece out, it tapers. There, okay. There, hard to get that one out. Hopefully when I get this laid into the bowl to bake it, I can get it to curl a little bit here and there. I think that would be nice. Alright, so there's Fishy's little tail. Hopefully that will work, because if I can curl some little pieces here and there like so, maybe get the whole thing, if I put my bowl, I can get the whole thing to kind of curl somehow or other. Maybe my fishy has to curl. And lay him in there and get some of the tail to curl around. That might work. I think I'm going to have to make a more exaggerated curl to get it in the bowl properly. But anyways, we'll worry about that at the end because I have to get all his scales on first. I am going to do some bending first though, because I don't want to squish my scales flat when I do it later. So far, these little bits, I'm hoping these little bits will work for the side fin. I do have to make a fairly big top fin. So I'm going to flatten this out. See how it looks. Looks kind of cool. So he's got to have a bottom, which is smaller, a top, which is going to be kind of like the length of his body, and then I think he's got a couple side fins. I'm going to make this into the side fins, but I'm not going to worry about them yet. But all I'm going to do is, cut them in half. I think they go thinner in the front, or do they? Do they go out like so? Or do they go out like so? I think that they get wider as they go out. Some fish, I think, go the opposite way. But I don't think this is one of them. So I'm going to, is this still on screen? Am I getting off screen? I want to rough up the edge, but I don't know how I want to do it. I put grooves in them. Maybe I want to do it with one of these guys. Yeah, that works pretty good because sometimes it cuts through it and sometimes it just thins it. You see that? So that's going to be the outside edge. I did that one a lot more than the other one. I should probably make them match. Because most of the time when I see little fishies like this, his fins are a little bit raggedy. So I'm going to set those aside for now. And I think while I'm on this subject, I'm going to do the top fin the same way before I forget what the heck I did. So here we go again. Stretch that out. Put the gold in this time. Light blue, dark blue, green. Let's try that. Now, what did I do? My memory is so short, I could do something 5 minutes later, forget what I did. Okay. And then we cut that, please. And then we put it like so. And we did it again. I'm already getting a collection of tools laying beside the work surface. I do that every time. It always makes me frustrated. Now I'm thinking to myself, as right before I cut that, I need this to be nice and long, and the more I cut it, the shorter it's getting. So I think I'm going to change it up a little bit on this one and go this way, like so, so that it doesn't end up being a short, fat one. It ends up, I went off the page with that, so now it's tapered. It ends up being a long, skinny one for the top. I think we did that like 3 times last time. Make sure I'm going with my grain of my stripes. I almost boo-booed there. I thought I wanted it wider, and then I thought, wait, I can't do that because I need it to be with the stripes. I don't want it to be push the stripes around. Okay. So it might not be as pretty as the last one, but it is at least nice and long. So, I think what I'm going to do, I need it to follow his body shape, but I need the front to start and kind of go like so. So it's going to gradually come out of the top of his head and run along his back. And I'm pretty sure I need it to have the grooves going this way. Like so. And I don't need it that long, obviously. So I'm going to taper this a little more. And then I think it doesn't go all the way back. I think maybe from here it does that. And then I'm going to do what I did on the other side ones. I'm going to rough the edge up a little bit so it looks more realistic.